Hi, I'm Melissa Raymond from Your Journey to Healing. I help parents of kids with eczema and allergies with bigger picture, evidence-based information so they can stop wasting time searching for this information themselves and they can actually move forward through any barriers and actually get started with helping their child. I'm basically the research nerd so that you don't have to be. Now, today we're going to be talking about the Allergy March or the Atopic March. And this is a link between eczema, allergies, asthma, and hay fever. Now, 70% of kids have parents or family with one of these four conditions, so an atopic condition. And the atopic condition is that sort of allergic type condition where we're talking about eczema, allergies, asthma, and hay fever. So if one parent of a child who has one of these four conditions, then the child is about 35% more likely to develop one of these conditions, in particular eczema. And if two parents have an atopic condition, that is eczema, asthma, allergies, or hay fever, then the child is 50% more likely to develop one of these conditions. So that's pretty high, right? So typically what we see is that it starts with eczema. Although what I'm seeing now with a lot of my clients is that they have eczema, allergies, and asthma. So usually eczema or atopic dermatitis, atopic eczema, starts in the first 12 months of life. 50% of kids develop it in the first 12 months, and 95% of kids who have atopic eczema develop it within the first 5 years of life. Now, that often tends to then but some of those kids then go on to develop asthma and allergies as well. And they may be linked as well, as many kids with eczema actually do have allergies. Now, why am I talking about this today? Well, it's really, really interesting. And the researchers out there are saying that imagine if we could treat eczema at the root causes and actually stop it from progressing or stop it from continuing through childhood and into adulthood, then perhaps we can actually prevent these allergies and asthma as well. I mean, asthma is can be a particularly high risk condition with being potentially severe respiratory or breathing problems. So it can be quite a severe condition. And the same with allergies as well, being on a spectrum of starting with a few hives, ending up in potential anaphylaxis where someone has difficulty breathing. So imagine if we could treat eczema and manage it at the root cause. Imagine a life without allergies and a life without asthma. That would be fantastic, right? So the researchers have found that there are some genetic genes. There are some genes that cross both eczema and asthma. And also research has shown that gut health is impaired in people with eczema, it's impaired in people with asthma, and it's also impaired in people with food allergies. So that looks like a really great place to start with one of the potential root causes of eczema, asthma, and allergies when they all tie in together in actually addressing gut health. Now, what I mean by gut health, if you haven't heard of gut health before, or you have and you're not quite sure what it is, it's basically the health of our gastrointestinal system. And specifically, we're talking about the gut microbiota, the different microorganisms that live in our gastrointestinal tract. Now, the gastrointestinal tract starts at the mouth and ends at the bottom. And the biggest concentration or the greatest concentration of these microorganisms is actually in the colon. Now, the diversity of bacteria, these microorganisms, so bacteria and other things like yeast and other microorganisms that live in the gut, they have a really significant role to play. And just because they're bacteria doesn't mean they're bad. In our gut, we have good, beneficial bacteria, And we also have potentially pathogenic or potentially bad bacteria. Now, that is really important that it is in balance. So we have a good range of different bacteria in our gut, but we also have a good levels of those beneficial bacteria. Now, there's no one perfect microbiota. There's no one perfect level of concentrations of bacteria or diversity, because it depends on what foods you eat and where you come from, and it gets passed on from generation to generation. So there are differences of microbiota throughout the world, but diversity is linked with, or high diversity or good diversity is linked with health. It's what happens is when we have a lower concentration and less diversity of the beneficial bacteria, that the potentially pathogenic or the potentially bad bacteria can grow. And that's what we don't want, right? We actually want the good guys to be in good concentrations and diversity, and that keeps the potentially bad bacteria in check. And what they found is that in eczema, asthma, and allergies, this balance is out of balance. It's not balanced, and that creates a dysbiosis. So it's out of balance, and the bad bacteria are increased. And that's certainly what the research is showing, that it's not the same across everyone with eczema, but there is less diversity and increased pathogenic or bad bacteria. So that's potentially one of the reasons that these three conditions, or 3 or 4 conditions, are linked in that atopic march. And it is that march towards, starting with eczema and heading towards asthma and allergies. As I mentioned before, there are some genes that overlap, and mapping the genome project, the genetics with linking it to all these conditions is going to take some more time. But it's really interesting that even though you might have the genes associated with eczema, it doesn't mean that you are going to develop eczema. We have a fantastic influence over our genes and the way that they are expressed. And this is a field called epigenetics. I'm not going to go into it too much in this video today, because I just wanted to talk about the Allergy March, but it's not a life sentence, and there are things that influence our genetic expression, and this is lifestyle. So it's diet, stress, exercise, and exposure to chemicals. So all of those things influence the health of our body and the way our genes are expressed, and this is something that we can do and be positive in our approach towards eczema. Now, if you would like to know more, I do talk a lot about this in one of my Facebook groups called Kids with Eczema, Allergies and Asthma. I'll pop the link down below, and I would love you to join us and join in the conversation. And I'll also pop the link down for my website down below so that you can access some of the free resources there if you're interested in learning more about proactive ways that we can help approach children with eczema. I'll see you on the next video. Bye.